Welcome to the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I am your host, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Voices for Voices is the #1 ranked TV show and podcast where people turn to for expert mental health, recovery, and career advancement intelligence. Our show is all about teaching you insanely actionable techniques to help you prosper, grow yourself and self-worth, as well as your personal brand. So, if you are a high achiever or someone who wants more out of life, whether mentally, physically, or spiritually, please make sure you subscribe to our TV show and podcast right now. As you can see, our show publishes fresh episodes each Wednesday that focus on case studies, real-life examples, actionable tips, and in-the-trenches reports and interviews from subscribers just like you. If that sounds like something that could help you grow personally or professionally, then please join me by subscribing. So thank you for joining us again here on the show. This is part 2 from our episode last week that we are going to pick up where we left off. So our guests are joining us from Aledo, Texas, and the guests are Miss Elliston and Mrs. Anna McAdams. Thank you for joining us and sticking around for a second episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And again, I'll start last episode. Elliston is very brave and courageous for stepping forward, for being an advocate for you, and touching and reaching people and helping anybody that's been through a situation and hopefully prevent situations from occurring. And so we'll pick up there with that whole prevention. So it was last October that these series of events came to light. How did Senator Ted Cruz and his office come to be? How did that communication start? And we can go from there.
Yeah. So when it all happened and we really couldn't get anywhere as far as with law enforcement, with the school itself, I just started calling anybody and everyone that would listen. I just started leaving messages. I knew that, we weren't getting anywhere, but in order to get somewhere, we were going to need to have something in law, something in the student code of conduct. I was just trying to get a hold of anybody that would listen. So I just started leaving messages with anybody that I could think of. And so Senator Cruz was one of the ones that I left a message with. Okay. And so through that semester, we were able to do a Title IX, which a Title IX investigation by law allows us to know who it was. Okay. So we finally were able to figure out who it was. And we kind of already knew just because he wasn't in school anymore. Mm-hmm. But we were able to at least know who it was to kind of try to help protect, I guess, a little bit. Yeah. But going into the Title IX, it took the full semester to get that done. So we didn't know anything until the second semester of her freshman year. Okay. In February of this year, Senator Cruz's office reached out to me. And so said, hey, we heard we got your voicemail. We heard what happened. Senator Cruz kind of wants to know more about your story. So I kind of just we shared kind of what had happened. And he was really taken by it. He said, I have daughters, 13, 16. This could happen to them. We really want to try to put together something to kind of help in this regard. So just thrilled to hear that somebody heard us. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until they said, we're going to work on this bill. It's really important that we do it as a bipartisan so that it's not a Republican Democrat bill, but it's something that is, that everybody can come to agreement on. And so they worked on that through the semester. And then in May of this year, got a hold of me again and said, hey, we've got the support we need. We're gonna announce it soon. And so that's when he he flew me out to kind of do some press and talk to DC, talk to different people up there, different senators' offices and stuff like that to try to get even more support for that. So, and the great thing about that too is that well, we went there. These pictures are still there up until that point. So Snapchat had never responded to any of my requests to have the accounts taken down or the pictures down. We even did a warrant through the sheriff's office, and nothing was ever in response. And so that first meeting with Senator Cruz, and he asked me, he goes, "Are they still there?" I go, "Yeah, because Snapchat won't respond." And so he was like, "We're getting on that right now." So within 24 hours, the accounts had been taken down, and Snapchat had finally taken them down. But that's part of the issue, and part of this bill is that they have 48 hours once they've been notified to take them down. And so, me as a commoner, just a normal person, I don't have a big enough voice. It took me knowing someone that could actually get that done. And so that should not be the case. If my daughter's pictures or, something like this has happened again, these big, huge tech companies, they should respond. And they have 48 hours with this bill to take it down. So,
and then I was reading in the press and some of the interviews you did, you referred to if Taylor Swift, if there was a copyright infringement, or if this actually happened with the exact same thing photo wise, it'd be down as soon as possible. If Disney and The Lion King, the same thing. If there was an event that happened, that would be taken down right away. But us as like commoners, just average people, who are the voters, voting these people in the office, to still give, it feels like give the predator, the person or persons, it's giving them. It feels like giving them like extra power in a way. It's like they get an extra 2 days to they can wait to hour 47 and 59 minutes and the harm and the damage and as you mentioned, Elliston, with with classmates and what people could see in the future for job interviews and those types of things that there's already things that we don't know that come out there, but to know that something like this could potentially be sitting there. How, Elliston, and I think I read about, you were talking a little bit about mental health wise, like how's the situation affected kind of your mental health and maybe give some pointers if somebody's kind of going through a situation or things that maybe coping mechanisms that you utilize?
Well, I mean, social media itself is already so toxic, and the environment itself has created such a toxic environment now. And um, someone who went through this, it takes a big toll on your mental health, especially if you're a teenager and you're going to high school, or no matter what age you are, this situation is going to not benefit you. You're going to be affected negatively, which is what's awful about it. And I deal with anxiety, and this really just absolutely derailed. I fully went off the rails, and it was so scary. I was constantly living in fear, and I just didn't want to come out of my room. I didn't want to socialize. I just completely wanted to cut off my ties with everyone and just be by myself. And it made me lose trust in a lot of people and a lot of things. And it's really, really, it's really important to really focus on mental health during these, and just really understand that social media is already negative, and the more that these images are getting created and the more that AI is getting put out there and used in a negative offense, the worse it's going to get. And this has happened all over the world, and teenagers are already talking about committing suicide or self-harming or things like that. And it's so hard to see, especially if someone doesn't have a good support group.
Right.
And I'm so blessed to have like my mom and to have girls around me who kind of went through something similar so that I know like at the end of the day I'm not alone. And a lot of people don't have that. And as well as I'm very strong in my faith, and I know that all things will turn out good in the end, but someone who isn't introduced to all of these things and have all of that around them, they could be struggling and they might not have a voice. And that's why I just think it's really important that we are getting this story out, because at the end of the day, it's bigger than just me and my mom,
Yeah.
and it just needs to be heard everywhere.
It does, and thank you for sharing that. And I don't know how much you know about me, but I mean, 42 at age 37, diagnosed with major depression, anxiety, and then low spectrum autism, and so to I mean, every day is kind of an act of recovery, regardless if it's recovering from a substance or recovering from another traumatic event. As this occurred, I commend you for, again, having a team and having people around you can talk to, and I can also relate about the faith that I was say like at my lowest point. Had the therapist, the psychiatrist, and medication, and I had been away from faith and the church for many years, and I felt like there was something that was missing. Like I felt like I was starting to hit on all cylinders of recovering and the best that I could, and it wasn't until I went back and rediscovered, I guess, the faith. And I remember, and it's crazy to think about, but I'm sure you can relate or at least understand. It was a Christmas Eve, and I hadn't been in church when over like a bigger event. I mean, regular Sunday, the church just wasn't filled like to the gills and people standing, and so I was kind of going into the lion's den of I'm putting like my anxiety and everything and to the test. And so I got there early, and a family had asked to sit next to me because there was an open room in the pew, and the one boy, he was a son, and he kept asking like, hey, can you let me out? I need to go for a walk. And because we were there, I think an hour before the church started to get a good seat and prepare. And so he did that about 3 or 4 times. And one of the last times, the mom turned to me and said, he's got anxiety, and so that's why he keeps getting up to try to sitting here makes him like extra anxious with the people, and it's a little bit warm and thinking he's going to pass out. And so he came back the one time, and so I told him, I said, I was like, I don't know you, but I also have a ton of anxiety, that there's others, just like you said, just like you, just like me. And after Mass, the mom said, that it was a kind thing to say, but if I wouldn't have been in that situation, I wouldn't have been able to, and if I wasn't sitting exactly there. And so, like I said, we don't know who we're touching with the story, and the more people, the more venues, the more interviews we get on, that it can only help others. So you're just extremely brave, and I have to also say very well spoken too. Talking through the topics and into your points, and that's those are things that obviously they're great for anybody to have. But as you were talking through the difficult experiences and all the things that have come is great. It makes it somebody a little bit like an outsider like myself to learn a little bit more about the situation, not just reading a press release and seeing replays of the press conference. So to get back into our conversation, in how Senator Ted Cruz came to be about. So this legislation is referred to as the Take It Down Act, and that stands for tools to address known exploitation by immobilizing technological deepfakes on websites and networks. How does that make you feel, Anna, as far as, I mean, the legislation part and that just, it's difficult, but do you feel it's encompassing enough that if it continues to gain traction and gets signed into law and implemented? We talked about the 48 hours, you're still given the 48 hours, but do you feel good about what's included in that?
I do, because it addresses the AI aspect of everything. So this kid, had this been in law at that time, it would be a felony, first of all, which will not fall off of his record. Yeah. And second, he would have had jail time with it. So that is even being a minor, that was part of the issue is we felt like because he was a minor and did this offense, he was protected. So he became more like the victim where our girls were, it was totally flip-flopped instead of being like, okay, he did this to them and should have some kind of consequence. So this bill would allow anybody that did this would have jail time 2 to 3 years, and would also then that aspect of the big tech having to take everything down within 48 hours. So this to me is a huge bill, huge something to put into law, put into practice the verbiage that we need to be able to prosecute. So next time, hopefully this kid will never do this again, but he needs to think about, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a consequence. It's not just going to be a slap on the wrist. So hopefully this will help people to go, you know what, maybe I don't need to do that, So we're really excited. It really, just having a voice finally, somebody listening, hearing what we went through, and being able to now do something, because it really can affect anyone.
Yeah.
Male, female, it doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult. This really, we've heard stories of every age group being affected by this. And so there's some statistic that said it's like increased by 400% just in a year. Wow. So, it's not going away. Mm-hmm. So we've got to start putting things into law and, having verbiage and having consequences for these type of things.
So you mentioned you were able to speak to other lawmakers in D.C. when you're there. How was their feedback? Was it similar to Senator Cruz or?
Yeah. We've had no pushback whatsoever. And that's been the wonderful part about this is we can come together. It's not a Republican or a Democratic. This is about our children. Yes. And so that at the end of the day is really what it's about. It's about how do we protect our kids. And so we've got, I think, over 40 different organizations who have come and supported it. So the celebrities, sports, MLB, we've got Meta on board, we've got TikTok on board. So we really are gaining huge support for this. No pushback whatsoever. So it's been really refreshing to go, you know what, we can unite. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be anything political. It can just be about our children. And so that's the most important thing.
Yes. And I think that's the key with all the divisiveness and craziness going on, that there are things, a lot of things, but this is definitely one. It's just about a human being and a family and somebody growing up. And that's happening. And it doesn't have to be, like, oh, well, I believe in this ideology or I'm against it. So to have that bipartisan support. So I don't have a ton of knowledge with legislation. So the Take It Down Act, is it already in place? Does it have to be signed by the president, or how does all that?
Well, it has to go through, and they have to unanimously. It has to be voted in. Okay. So that's kind of the next step in this. And he thinks, Senator Cruz thinks that he can get it done this year. So, which is huge, because a lot of times legislation can take years to get it in place. Yeah. But we are gaining so much support with it and getting so much exposure to it that he really thinks that it can go into effect this year. So it has he started at the beginning of the year, but we're gaining so much support that we just feel real confident that it's going to go through.
That, I mean, that's, like I said, that's remarkable. Like a slow start, but things are picking up. And yeah, I mean, you hear about years and years and back and forth, in committee, out of committee, and all the wrangling for votes. And so, and I think this is definitely something that should be top of mind, and it should be as soon as possible implemented. Because any human being, any parent, any child, I mean, I'm just thinking about even children that might be foster kids or in a situation where they might not have a ton of support. They could have extra negativity coming against them. They're just trying to grow up, and if maybe the parent situation or the family isn't the greatest, that it'll help even the most vulnerable out there as well, across the board, no questions asked. That's amazing. So with all the press and appearances, does it take a toll on you, like being inundated with requests to share your story? And is that stressful? I don't know.
Well, when this first whole situation happened, I felt so hopeless, and the school wasn't really taking it seriously. And the first couple days that it happened, I just felt like it wasn't going to get any better, and I was fully convinced like I'm just going to have to live with this. But as my mom has reached out to more people, and as more people are beginning to understand what happened, it's a relief. And we had another story similar happen in New Jersey, and seeing how far she's come, and she was able to get her story on the news, and it just made me feel inspired because I'm not alone in this, and someone who is across the world is able to get their story on the news. I was like, that's just so inspiring, and it helped me realize like I'm not alone in this. And with next thing you know, my mom is like, hey, we're going to New York City, we're going to Washington, D.C., we're meeting with Senator Cruz. It's just, it all happened so fast. And as overwhelming as it is, it's just helped me realize that like, this is bigger than just me. And I am getting this out and hopefully able to inspire girls like the story in New Jersey inspired me. And I just hope that this is able to help others and help them realize like that they are supported, and it'll all be good in the end.
Yeah, it's incredible. How can viewers, listeners find out more about the legislation? What can they do to help support going forward?
I mean, they can write letters, they can call their senators, they can do pretty much what we did. Just reach out, and on Senator Cruz's website, the act is there, and shows all the support, on both sides of the aisle there. But yeah, I mean, if they want to, I mean, it really, I think through this has also showed me that we, the people, do have a voice. And a lot of times I think in politics, we feel like we really don't. And so to be able to get where we are, I mean, it was because I reached out. And so just encouraging people to reach out and talk to your local reps and that kind of thing. So we've also gained momentum here in Texas. Like our local rep here is on a criminal justice board. And I got to go speak to them about AI as well. And so we're working on state legislation too, to get something put there as well. So it's just a matter of having a voice. I mean, do something, just anything, getting it out there. That's really what makes a difference.
And it truly does. And, you could have took a different approach of not reach out. But by you, like you said, you're just like, I'm going to call, I'm going to reach out, and until something starts getting traction. And I think whether it's this situation, this experience, or if somebody's in a different one, that if they're in a bad relationship and they're trying to get out, you got to reach out. You got to, unfortunately, try to make it happen as much as you can. That if it's a phone call or emails or what have you, that it's I've one of the mottos I kind of live by, like the answer is always no, like if you don't ask. So you reach out to 100 people, if one person responds, that one person could be the one that like catapults. And we hear all these stories about, it took over 10,000 tries for the light bulb to be invented, and all these stories. And those are things that, as you mentioned, Elliston, when down days of, I have those as well. It's like I don't really want to do a whole lot, and to know that you're not alone, that we're not alone, just as human beings, that we're all going through something. It just happens that this something is, like you said, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than your family, it's a human issue, and that is, I think, why there's bipartisan support. There should be that on other topics, but we're talking about this, and to have that bipartisan support, and to potentially have it turned into a law from a bill within a year. That's incredible. I mean, you talk about, you already have great resume material, interviews and things of, hey, like, when were you in a I don't know, say bad situation, but how did you turn it around? Or have you ever been in a group at school and nobody was doing their work, and you found it was due in a week and nobody had done anything, and I needed to do this project, and I can see that on top of just you as a well-spoken individual, and again, just being able to share. I hope that continues, that more opportunities, more interviews, that this legislation goes through, that gets passed, and that it never happens again, because that's kind of the goal of, we take kind of a situation that's a little bit, or it's a lot negative, and turn it into like, okay, it's unfortunate this happened, but we stepped up, we reached out, in like our organization of just being a voice for, whether it's just you or there's other people that are in need that might not be the person that reaches out and it's vocal and that. So you're definitely being a voice for you and others in need. So on that note, we've come to the end of our second part episode. So Ms. Elliston and Mrs. Anna, thank you so much for sticking with us for 2 episodes, for sharing your stories, and we wish you nothing but the best for you and your families.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
helping us get our story out there. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And we also want to thank you, our viewers, our listeners. Again, part 2 of this story, another powerful topic. Again, subscribe, share, like. We need to continue to get this topic out there, because we do need this Take It Down Act to be enacted into law. So if you can reach out to your senator, your House of Representative, your local lawmaker, do what Mrs. Anna did, and use your voice and reach out, because we all have a voice, and it's up to us to try to do the best we can. So until next week, we want to thank you. I am your host, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. And as the saying goes, until next time, please be a voice for you or somebody in need.